Okay, this is a weird story. I'm just warning you. You're going to come out of this and you're not going to know how to feel because I have known about this guy and this story for a long time and it's just taken its latest turn and it always makes me feel weird. And I don't know if it's saintly or awful or somewhere in between. Right? It is probably somewhere in between. It is probably both saintly and awful. But this has to do with the Jamaican national team as it is in Copa America and it just released its squad announcement. And that squad announcement included all of the usual suspects for the Jamaican national team, including Leon Bailey. Now, the only interesting thing about Leon Bailey being included on there, the Aston Villa player who plays in the Premier League, very, very good player, right? He initially had retired from the Jamaican national team not too long ago. Now, this was not a huge surprise to me because if you know anything about Leon Bailey, you know that at the very least, he's fucking weird. Like, Leon Bailey grew up in Jamaica, okay, and then spent he then spent the first half of his professional career in Europe desperately attempting to play for any other national team. I mean, this was a saga for so long. I remember reading articles that when he was playing in Germany, he was trying to find a path to be able to compete for the German national team. He was looking for any way to play for any other national team. But unfortunately for Leon Bailey, he couldn't find it. So eventually, right as he finally gets to he could have been playing for Jamaica for 6 to 7 years before they kept trying to call him up. He kept saying no. And there were all these sorts of weird rumors about why it was. From that, he felt it was beneath him, which would be the kind of straightforward answer, to the fact that his dad was trying to get his other son called up to the Jamaican national team as part of this coup. Like, oh, you get Leon Bailey, you get your best player, well, you also have to call up this other guy. Problem is that guy sucks. And this story is really about Leon Bailey's dad, but Leon Bailey's dad is like kind of his dad. Well, technically, he's his adopted father. Okay, and his name is Craig Butler, as seen here in this Tinder profile picture that he has posted everywhere. And Craig Butler is a weird dude. And the reason that look, we're going to keep diving into this, right? Because it gets weirder. But Craig Butler is a former Jamaican player. And his Wikipedia, while struggling mightily with punctuation, in my opinion, was clearly written by Craig Butler. I'll let you be the judge of it yourself, but I believe that this was written by Craig Butler or somebody in Craig Butler's orbit, because this does not look like it has been peer reviewed at all. It cites like just a couple of articles. Like, okay, just hear me out. He has been nicknamed Bullhead. He also went to the final as a player in 1984 and went unbeaten in 1986. His name was earned from his ability to really head the football well. He's the father of Jamaican footballers Leon Bailey, parentheses Aston Villa, no links, who he has guided in his professional career since aged 8. Kyle Butler and Dante Peralta, the current captain of Mona High, while also adopting over 35 other footballers, raising them in his home and giving them futures in football. Kamar Reed of Floriana FC in Malta is one such player, along with Kimu Jackson, Kyle Butler. Just no, I don't know what's going on there. Butler is a fierce advocate for his players and continues to give hope to young people in Jamaica using football as a vehicle to advancement in life. Dewan Whisper Richards of Chelsea FC is another player. It's like he's having a stroke. It's like whoever's writing this is just remembering which players he manages over the course of writing this piece. Like, he'll write something, maybe a piece of information about how he uses football as a vehicle for advancement in life. And then, oh yeah, Dewan Whisper Richards, another player Butler managed and developed from 11 years old. No punctuation. He has faced hatred and ostracism from the Jamaican Football Federation for calling them out for corruption and unprofessionalism, as well as unwillingness to develop youth talent properly in the sport. So if I was feeling victimized, that's exactly how I would write this. This was written by Craig Butler. Dude, there's no way it wasn't. Okay. And I found other news articles on some website called Our Today, which I don't know what Our Today is other than a vehicle to blow smoke up this guy's ass. But the titles are basically Why Craig Butler Deserves a National Honor, Craig Butler for the Great Game in Jamaica's Future, Part 1. Same LinkedIn / Tinder / Ashley Madison profile picture going on there. This is crazy. Like, all of this is, like, I don't knock the hustle, right? But this is just so transparent in your self-interest, it's not even funny. Like, he's trying to blow, he's going to have a few ribs removed to blow smoke up his own ass, right? But you don't even know why we're really talking about this yet. So basically, Leon Bailey gets called up, and then he posts on his story misleading information, right? He basically is turning down the call up. And then we start getting posts from Craig Butler about this whole situation, right? And I'll remind you that originally Leon Bailey was involved in extensive negotiations with the Jamaican Federation, attempting to hold them hostage to try and get Craig Butler's like blood-related son, not one of the 35 adopted players that he's developing. Because apparently this guy's running an orphanage academy. I have like that strikes me as weird. Like, I need to see proof. If you tell me you've adopted 35 players to like develop them in their careers, I'd need to see proof that you're not just trying to take advantage of all these kids, right? Because it's just sounding crazy to me. And all of this other stuff is kind of reinforcing that it feels a little crazy to me, Craig. Can't be calling me crazy. Because I'll remind you that those stories initially, them holding them hostage, right? I never finished that sentence. Well, that had to do with him trying to get that his blood son on the team, who sucks, by the way. He's not any good, right? Like, he currently is on the roster of Austria Lustenau. He made a grand total of 11 appearances, 10 for St. Andrews, went to Austria Lustenau and fell out. He then in November 2020 reported an alleged assault on him by his father. He shared images of an alleged stab wound on social media and claims that he has received physical and mental abuse from his father for years. Butler's father denies the allegations. I didn't even know that when I started recording this, but that obviously, I mean, that takes it from being weird and taking advantage of people to being physically abusive. But that's just one allegation, so we can't follow that to the end of time. But anyways, that guy's not playing anymore, and I would imagine after accusing his father for assault, not really trying to get on the national team anymore. Certainly wasn't good enough to be on the Jamaican national team in the first place. I mean, this is a team that qualified for Copa America. Anyways, Craig Butler now starts posting after the Jamaica fiasco where Leon Bailey gets called up and then kind of basically says he's not going to go. Craig Butler, who, by the way, is still Leon Bailey's agent. He was also his adopted father and coach. All right, anyways, said Leon Bailey has stated that he is taking a break from the Jamaican national team for his mental health and to spend time with his family. That's not what I or anybody else heard. Basically, Leon Bailey didn't say he was taking time away. He said he was like retiring from the Jamaican national team until they made changes. Basically, that's the way he addressed it. But now it's being kind of reframed here. We kindly ask you respect his wishes at this time. Posts made on social media that are surfacing at this time is a misrepresentation of his position. Honestly, reading this in Craig's particular vernacular, his particular written vernacular, it feels like I'm reading his Wikipedia page. We wish the Reggae Boys well in Copa America competition, and he, along with his management team, will continue to support the Jamaican national team at all levels. Change must come, respect and one love for all. Clearly somebody convinced of his own self-importance. Now this comes out, right? This is news coming from Nationwide 90 FM, basically. At a meeting, Craig Butler, the guy we're talking about, pointed out 5 areas the JFF must address before Bailey agrees to a return. Now, that doesn't exactly sound like he's taking time for his mental health to spend time with his family. I'm no expert, right? Now, you can't call me a psychologist, but it doesn't sound like that's what we're talking about here. Among them, Leon Bailey would get his own personal security when he is with the national team and first-class flights, which, yeah, that's a pompous asshole request. Right? And maybe the security thing might be necessary. I don't know. Maybe he's had incidents in the past where his security wasn't sufficient and Bailey felt like he was in danger. First class flights, okay. Maybe that's a more normal thing, but withdrawing from the national team over this feels a little wild. His own room, okay. A review of the players' contracts. Who the hell knows what that means, right? Like, what does he just want to see what they are? What changes does he want? That doesn't seem to be clear. And that Rudolph Speed be removed as the head of the technical committee. Yo, Craig thinks he's in a game. Craig Butler thinks he's playing Game of Thrones, right? And he is the Starks and the Lannisters of the Jamaican Federation. And he is just it is to the death, right? And he is trying to get this dude fired. What does Leon Bailey think about this? I don't know. I mean, if we take what happened with Kyle Butler, Craig's son, like his related son, sounds like Kyle was kind of forced down this rabbit hole. Now, I'm not saying Leon Bailey wasn't forced to be a player. I think even when you watch something like the Beckham documentary, a lot of these people that ended up being such incredibly talented footballers, they've got somebody lighting a fire under their ass at a very early age. That doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing, right? But it does seem like Craig Butler's got his hooks in unhealthily deep, right, in terms of Leon Bailey's decision-making, because it does seem like Leon Bailey's decision-making is very heavily influenced by Craig Butler. Now, of course, there is the possibility that Leon Bailey is telling Craig Butler to do all of these things. I find it more likely that Craig Butler's going the other way around, because, I mean, he's trying, at a meeting, Butler's the one pointing this out, right? Unless Leon Bailey's saying, hey, man, I want you to do this for me. Right, but also, I can't imagine Leon Bailey would want to get Rudolph Speed removed as the technical committee because he is the head of the Premier League champions Cavalier. Now, Cavalier is a team in the Jamaican League, right? Cavalier is a team in the Jamaican League right here. Now, Leon Bailey doesn't give a shit about the Jamaican League. I would imagine. It's very likely that he doesn't give a shit about the Jamaican League. Who is the only person that would care about the Jamaican League? It'd be Craig Butler, right? Because he lives in Jamaica. He works in Jamaica. He works around the Jamaican League. After all, he is currently managing some of the biggest talents in the region and in Europe. Yeah, that sounds fire. Print that. I love this. I can't get enough of this Wikipedia. It's the best Wikipedia page I've ever read. Butler managed Mona High School in Jamaica, helping the team win their first league title. Against all the odds, the team beat all others in an unbeaten season. If it was an unbeaten season, that doesn't mean they beat all others. That means they didn't lose. But I mean, semantics, right? With the best defensive record in scoring the most goals. I wish that I loved myself as much as Craig Butler loves himself. I will give him that. And I generally think I'm pretty happy. I'm sorry, I hadn't read this article, but this is actually the best one. The second paragraph starts with, think of great sports coaches, Sir Alex Ferguson, Nick Bollettieri, Richard Williams, Herb Brooks, Bill Belichick, and Vince Lombardi. They impose their vision and character on their respective sporting disciplines, nurturing and developing phenomenal talent. Craig Butler is managing to do the same with football in Jamaica and has now produced 37 professional footballers, including his son, the mercurial Leon Bailey, who now plays in English Premier League with Aston Villa. I'm speechless. I am speechless. I feel like I am reading North Korean level state propaganda right now. But at the top of this article, the founder and lead principal of the Phoenix Football Academy. So it's clear Craig Butler at least considers himself, involved in this hierarchy. I would imagine that he has some sort of beef with this guy named Rudolph Speed. As this person points out, what does Rudolph Speed being a member of Cavalier have to do with Leon Bailey representing the Reggae Boys? And this is another Instagram post. Remember, Craig Butler said that all these media posts are misrepresenting everything. Just get, peace and love and kumbaya. This was a post. It said, Jamaica, we are bigger than this. This is 2024. We all know that football on-field success cannot be achieved without off-field success. Good administration equals great results. That's fine. Up to that point, it's fine. Then it gets incredibly weird and makes me uncomfortable again. It says, Leon and I require some basic administrative improvements. I'm going to keep it a stack with you, Craig Butler. You're not on the Jamaican national team. You don't play for Aston Villa, and you never will. Right? So why the fuck is it Leon and I? Right? You don't require administrative improvements in order to reappear on the Jamaican national team. Any representative ever, any other manager or agent, they never say this. Right? Even parents. You don't catch Alfie Holland saying, Erling and I really this is weird. This is weird, right? Erling and I just needed more money in that contract. Okay, boss, Leon and I require some basic No, if it's Leon Bailey that really gives a shit, Leon requires more basic administrative improvements because that is who you are representing. Yeah, either as an adopted father, as a manager, as an agent, because honestly, I don't know. Right? All three at the same time, I guess, is what we're going. We recommend the following be addressed. So he lays this out here as well. Review of player contracts to address the matters of security, long-haul travel, and rooms. review and monitoring of employee contracts to improve employee-player relations. I'm going to translate that. Some employees we don't like and we would like to have them fired. Adopting global standards relating to communication with players. Adopting global standards relating to the determination of player affiliation. I don't know what either of those mean, to be honest. I'm just going to assume, based off the precedent that has been set here by everything else, that it's annoying. And immediately addressing the clear perception of or reality of conflict of interest at the level of technical committee chairman. We believe that, as is the case globally, the chairman of the technical committee should not hold any club affiliation. That is a much more eloquent way of putting it than was reported initially. That's the point that he's trying to make. What makes me uncomfortable is that he just continues to wield the royal we after saying Leon and I. Like, he strikes me as somebody that is living vicariously. Every single thing I've read that seems to be produced by him, every single thing that that I'm reading that is like reporting on him is weird. I'm not saying this guy is all bad. I tried to say that at the beginning, right? He's clearly taking a lot of kids in to try and bring them forward. But there's a lot of weird shit swirling around this. And I'm going to be honest, the Jamaican Federation sounds far from perfect. Yeah, I agree with the way that he kind of put it here. I feel like you can not like somebody and agree with them on certain things. If you believe, right, that having what is it, a technical committee chair, I don't know exactly what purpose that serves. We're not talking about the head of the FA here. It sounds like we're talking about one of the underlings. But if the technical committee chair being associated with one of the clubs in Jamaica I imagine that actually could cause some problems. I'm sure the Jamaican FA is not doing everything perfectly. I've heard other whispers about, that FA not being the best, or maybe not flying the players there in the right amount of time, or whatever from time to time. Obviously, they're in CONCACAF, so I'm a little more in touch with this than probably the vast majority. Not the vast majority, but the majority of you guys are not inside CONCACAF, so you're probably not keeping your finger on this pulse as much. But also, regardless of whether the Jamaican FA has problems or not, maybe they're not small. I don't want to be too specific there. They got to tell this guy to fuck off, right? And if Leon Bailey ever wants to play for Jamaica again, they can't be dealing with Craig Butler. You cannot, as a national team, be held hostage by somebody that is running a cottage industry to buff their own ego, from what it appears, right? Like somebody that is running a cottage orphanage to develop players, and I'm sure in his own mind, he believes that what he is doing is good, and it's possible he's accomplished a lot of good things on the way, but this kind of swirling nonsense, this kind of egotistical madness that seems to be flowing out of this situation just strikes me like I feel like it's impossible for it to only be a good thing when all of that is swirling around. Maybe I'm just allergic to this kind of to this overwhelming amount of ego. Right? But the Jamaican FA just has to stop dealing with this guy. And any player that chooses to be represented by this guy, or any player that comes out of this academy and chooses to, remain under his purview, I feel like if you're the Jamaican FA, you just have to stop. Because this is embarrassing, right? You just called somebody up and they're not going to go, and you're being held hostage by this guy that just called, he literally refers to somebody on his own Wikipedia as playing for Floriana and FC as one such players. Is one of the biggest talents in the region and in Europe. And look, I don't play for a team in Malta. The guy's better than me, but I don't refer to myself as one of the biggest talents in the region and in Europe, right? This guy's delusional. It feels like he's barely in touch with reality at times, and you got to stop dealing with him, right? Because the whole Leon Bailey situation was weird for 8 years before he finally agreed to play for Jamaica. And it's been tenuous and uncomfortable, and he seemed largely unhappy. And then he retires, and now they're trying to hold the federation hostage again, right? There are ways to improve a football federation without holding it hostage. If I was Leon Bailey, I'm sure there's a bunch of incredibly complicated ties, but I would try to be like, hey, change it from the inside. Play for the team and then protest on the field during the game if you feel like the security is that bad. If you feel like certain staff members are treating you unfairly. Play for the team and change it from the inside instead of just turning the Jamaican FA into a carnival, because that's what this is doing. I mean, you guys, like I said when we went into this, I didn't necessarily know 100% how I felt about it. I've tried to decompress my different trains of thoughts here. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to think about it, because it's a situation that has always made me deeply uncomfortable. right? But it's also a situation that if you're not inside it, you can't really know exactly how it's all working. But what I do know is the Jamaican FA should just not interact with these people because there's no way that it's going to end well.